Title: Buzzing Back Home. You know that feeling when you're standing on the precipice of a dream? For me, that moment came when I stood in front of my family's dining room table, a silent storm brewing inside as I unveiled my aspirations. "I want to be an urban beekeeper," I declared, the words escaping my lips like a prayer. The reaction was instantaneous. My mother laughed, a sharp, cutting sound that echoed through the room. My father shook his head, as if I had just confessed to a crime. My brother's eyes rolled so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "Oh, please," my mother scoffed. "Beekeeping? You must be joking. How on earth do you expect to make a living from that? It's a ridiculous hobby for a child, let alone an adult." I felt the weight. That night, I slipped into my room, the sting of their words weaving a tapestry of doubt in my mind. Yet beneath the hurt, a fierce determination began to take root. I was going to prove them wrong. I would transform that ridiculous dream into a reality, and no amount of ridicule would deter me. But my path was littered with obstacles. After my groundbreaking research on endangered plants was stolen by a jealous colleague, I found myself at a crossroads. It was then that I turned to urban beekeeping, a field dismissed by most scientists as trivial. I began to read everything I could find about bees, their ecosystems, and the critical role they played in urban ecological restoration. The first day I set up my hives in a barren lot, I could feel the scorn of my family echoing in my mind. "What are you doing?" my neighbors asked, half amused and half concerned. "You think you can save the world with bees?" But every buzz of those little creatures propelled me forward, silencing the naysayers with each drop of honey I harvested, each flower that bloomed as a result of my efforts. I spent years battling the elements, the city bureaucracy, and the persistent whispers of doubt. I was stung more times than I could count, both by my bees and by the relentless critics. But every time I stood in that lot, watching the bees flourish, the barren land slowly transforming around me into a vibrant ecosystem, I felt a profound sense of purpose. I discovered that bees could not only thrive in urban chaos, but they could also foster life in places deemed hopeless. I organized community workshops, teaching others about the importance of pollinators and how to create green spaces. With each successful hive I tended, my resolve strengthened, and I began to reshape the narrative of what it meant to be an urban beekeeper. Fast forward to that fateful day when I received the call that would change everything. An environmental organization had taken notice of my work. They wanted me to lead a citywide initiative to restore urban biodiversity through beekeeping. I couldn't believe it. This was my moment, a chance to prove my worth not just to my family, but to everyone who had ever doubted me. Years passed, and as I stood at the helm of a thriving project, I felt a rush of pride. The barren lots that once echoed with laughter now buzzed with life, teeming with flora and fauna. My work had garnered national attention, and as the urban beekeeping movement flourished, I found myself invited to speak about my journey at conferences and universities. But the real test awaited me back home. It was time to face my family. When I stepped through the door of my childhood home, the familiar smell of home-cooked meals wrapped around me. But this time it felt different. The laughter that once felt warm now felt like an echo of the past. "Look who's back!" my brother exclaimed, trying to mask his surprise with feigned enthusiasm. But I wasn't here for pleasantries. I had a message to deliver, and I was determined to make it unforgettable. I invited them to see the fruits of my labor, my urban garden, a once barren lot now transformed into a lush oasis, humming with the sound of bees. As we stepped outside, their expressions shifted from skepticism to disbelief. "Is this really yours?" my mother asked, her voice tinged with awe. I nodded, a small smile creeping across my lips. It's all thanks to the bees, I replied, letting the pride swell in my chest. But it wasn't just the garden that was remarkable. It was the community I had built around it. People gathered, sharing stories, laughter, and honey. I watched as my family's faces morphed from disbelief to understanding. And finally, to respect. They were witnessing firsthand the impact of my once ridiculed dream. Maybe we were wrong, my father admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, the weight of his regret hanging heavy in the air. I see now what you've created. In that moment, I felt the chains of their derision shatter. The years of mocking melted away in the warmth of recognition. We stood amidst a garden of hope, and I realized it wasn't just about the bees or even my success. It was about redemption for all of us, a chance to start anew. As the sun set behind us, painting the sky in brilliant hues, I knew that I had transformed not just barren land, but the hearts of those who once doubted me. I looked at their faces, illuminated by the glow of the garden, and saw the beginnings of something beautiful: acceptance, understanding, and a shared appreciation for the journey we had all taken. In that moment, I embraced my family, knowing that I had not only reclaimed my legacy, but had also created a new one rooted in resilience, love, and the unwavering belief that even the most ridiculous dreams could bring forth monumental change.